I'm in my Nick.
We might be live.
Stance.
We might already be live.
Nick
Yeah.
Nurse
I hope we
stance
are.
right now.
I hope so. Josue, get centered.
Get down on the sideline.
Josue, get position. Get position. We're gonna go for it. I mean, here we are. It's 2-2. We already started arguing prior to the game starting, so we're just gonna roll through it here. But we're gonna give Mr. Raptor Superfan a chance to gloat here in the bottom left. So Bobby, have at it.
Well, let me fire it off because before we get on the air, you guys are saying it's another game that the Raptors won by default. Celtics should have been sweeping at this point if they just made a few shots here or there.
It's glowing.
All true.
Listen,
Also
Kyle
true, but
Lowry
that's
has
okay.
come out, made an impact early in these games, gotten to the line early and often in these, making shots, hitting three-pointers at a high rate in this one. And tonight you get Pascal Siakam with that 6 for 11 closing effort. All of a sudden, all of these pieces, all of these pieces are coming together now. The only guy missing is Gasol.
Lowry, 5 of 16, 5 turnovers. Okay, tell me who else played well.
This is never going to be pretty in the playoffs. I mean, we got
5 of 16, 5 turnovers. That's benchable. Okay.
What's line in the last?
That's benchable, but
enthusiasm here.
That's benchable, but that's the best performance of this entire.
No, he played great last game. He did not have a great game this game.
No.
Yes, he did. He really did.
He did not have a great game. But
he had a tight. He was all he did was he flopped a bunch and he took a bunch of shots that didn't go in, and then he turned the ball over a lot. Objectively, he had a bad game, but the Celtics had worse games everywhere, and part of that could be because they were making them play poorly. That's an art. You know, Toronto's a good defensive club, and if you can't get what you want and you can't get into a flow, that's a strength. And right now, the Celtics have no offensive flow.
Well, that's part of his impact right now, too.
That's the story right now. The Celtics, how the hell does Kemba Walker get 9 shots off the day after going bananas here? I
was begging Kemba Walker to get more involved.
Yeah, it was so strange.
I don't know
it was just a strange game. Yeah.
Listen,
yeah, but the Celtics were like 2 timely 3-pointers away from getting right back into this. Like they
come
come
on.
And that was the feeling you had all game. What? You guys just sit there and tell me that throughout this entire game you felt like the Celtics had 0 chance of coming back? Like,
I mean, they were within 7 or so, but the Raptors were stringing together stops throughout this game, no matter who was on the floor for Boston. And ultimately,
it's a play, and Nick Nurse is going to have a heart attack, even though he's still up by 5. I mean, like, that's the kind of mentality these guys have. Like, again, you put the Celtics in a situation where they make one of those threes, cut the thing down to 3, cut the lead down.
Did you feel like they were going to get over the hill?
And the Toronto Raptors were not going to be ready for that.
Well, you mean you felt it in the same way that you didn't expect Marcus Smart to come get in 9 points, game 2 and then pull them even when they were down 8 either. But you did expect somebody eventually, like, you have those games where Kemba Walker's ice cold and then he has his 4th. You just expected somebody somewhere to knock down some shots. It just never happened. That was the thing is, you felt Bobby, I felt the whole game. It was one mini run of like, here's Tatum heating up, or here's Kemba. It just never came.
Yeah, and they were digging into these guys all night, though. Like you hold the Suns to 93 points. That's a massive accomplishment defensively. And we're seeing the Bucks and 1 start to hold Tatum down in this game. All these defensive looks, like they are doing great things as a team right now. No individual standout aside from Lowry to me, and even less so for you guys. But now that they get everybody going offensively and get on a string defensively, like they're looking like that dangerous team, and they're the favorites in the series.
But here's where we struggle. It's not that the Raptors aren't capable of beating. This is where we differ in our opinions. It's not that the Raptors aren't capable of beating the Celtics. Of course they are. It's that what is it that Toronto does that you're like, ooh, watch out for that? Is there any point? Again, it all comes down to whether we feel that the Celtics' best game beats the Raptors' best game. And I still think unequivocally that answer is yes. However, the Celtics
can't play good.
They're not playing well right now, and that could be because Toronto is making them play poorly. But again, you had a good offensive game and you scored 100 points. I mean, this is their first trip into triple digits. I mean, it's like they're really, this isn't that like. There's nothing that Toronto's doing right now that you're like, well, the Celtics have to account for blank. If you go back to the drawing board, all you're going to look at and say, well, we have to score more, and that's it. I mean, you just have to 7 of 35 from 3-point field goals. This is the whole story of the game. We're not even sitting here talking about it if the Celtics hit 10 3-pointers. I mean, it was that big a disparity. You're just not going to see that again. And it wasn't that these were contests. I mean, do you think they had to work hard for these looks, for the 3-pointers that they shot? There weren't a lot of heaves in that group. They just missed them.
You're talking about Toronto or Boston?
I'm saying Boston. Toronto got open looks. They knocked him down.
Yeah, I mean, Boston produced good looks, and they completely botched possessions hand in hand.
Yeah.
So you'd have a great look, and then you'd have Tice whipping it out of bounds in the fourth quarter. Tatum stumbling out of the pick and rolls. His ball control in this series has been horrific. The turnover numbers aren't high, and it's close between the two teams. But when you look at what the time they are turning it over, it's in crucial spots. The fourth quarter, I'd say they had the most turnovers out of any quarter in this game, at least visually. I haven't delved into the numbers. And, you look at the complete package. First half, last two games, Celtics have been right there with them. And then it comes into tighter possessions. Who's going to make the bigger plays in the third quarter? I thought the Raptors dominated the third quarter, especially when Brad put in that awful bench rotation.
Am I going to get a damn word in this show? Am I going to get one word in?
You got to stick with the Raptors crew here.
Jimmy, your head is so small after that haircut, I can't even see you anymore,
pal. Am I going to be able to say one thing? Listen.
Go.
Well, listen, both things can be true, right? The Raptors are played well enough to win the game. That doesn't necessarily mean that. I think if you're a Raptors fan, I don't think you would say that the Raptors played great game today. The Celtics absolutely sucked. Bobby, you can't say that the Raptors defense is the reason the Celtics shot 7 for 35 from 3-point.
They forced turnovers. Shots. They blew up possessions.
How did you not say that, Bobby?
The Celtics created a lot of their own turnovers, sloppy passes, offensive fouls, driving to the rim and just recklessly head down and just turning the ball over. I refuse to.
Yeah, a lot of those
I will give the Raptors some credit, but I refuse to give them all their credit. It was an offensive struggle on both ends. The fact that the Celtics even had a chance to win this game should tell you how badly the Raptors played it through stretches as well. The Celtics outsucked the Raptors, and yes, there was nobody on the Raptors that really stood out. But I will give Lowry this. It looked like he wanted to win that game more than anybody else
of this game,
on the court wanted to win the game. Nobody on the Celtics looked like they wanted to win the game. They didn't want to do anything extra. Marcus Smart, liability tonight. Jaylen Brown, an absolute liability on both ends tonight. I mean, he was getting picked on by Siakam on the defensive end, and we all saw the shooting. I mean, it was borderline comedy watching him take shot after shot. I don't know how the ball kept ending up in his hands. I mean, is there anybody else on the team that could have taken a shot during that
Marcus Smart?
I mean, again, this is
Kemba was not aggressive enough, I don't think, offensively. I mean, after the game that he had, he needed to come out more and do more offensively. And Tatum didn't kick it into that final gear. I thought, again, they looked frustrated out there. I don't know if they were just riding on full tilt from the way Game 3 ended. I mean, sure as hell looked like Jaylen Brown was, but it just didn't seem like their heads were in the game. They were sloppy from start to finish. And now we're talking about a 2-2 series. And I look like an idiot once again, as I usually do, for saying that there was no way this was going to be a 2-2 series. But I didn't expect the Celtics to come out and play the way they did today.
Well, let's stick on Jaylen for a little bit because, again, Jaylen is clearly the guy who, right or wrong, was he's the face of failure in Game 3, just being wrong place, wrong time, whether it was his job to get over on the shooter and the three-pointer that obviously ended up winning the game. It was him. It was there. He took it hard after the game. He had those comments, effing disgrace. And then he came out and he was a mess. Even before he started missing shots, he was just sloppy with the ball. He wasn't, he was either allowing, not closing out on a shooter or overly aggressive and letting people get by him. He just was like early stages of his career, Jaylen, where you're just like, he's just bull in a china shop, just running all over the place from the start. And then on top of that, even those wide open corner threes, which normally when all things are going wrong for Jaylen and he can hit those, and he wasn't hitting, and not only he wasn't hitting them, he was missing by miles. Those things were way off the mark.
From the corner too.
All of them.
You can tell he was just thinking.
And you're right, he was aiming it. There wasn't one that was like rattled, it was a true shot. He was way off all game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were very emotional tonight. And it felt like they were extra emotional after, whether it was a miss, whether it was a missed call or a call that they didn't agree with. It just felt like they weren't composed at any point enough tonight. Did they really ever go on a run? Did they ever feel like they were in their stride at any point? Because I never felt that way. It felt like
the only run was Semi Ojeleye.
Exactly.
In
it
that
felt like
second
an
quarter.
absolute struggle. Typical American perspective. Wow. Okay. Racist, by the way. Viva la Canada. Wow.
They're
I would
coming.
say this.
No, Jimmy, don't get mad.
I will be in the YouTube comments as I was yesterday. I will eventually go to battle in the YouTube comments tomorrow at some point. I'm gonna rifle through them all. So get your shots in. I will be responding to everybody.
Well, let me point out another guy on the Raptors that's been making it tough on the Celtics, and that's OG Anunoby. Comes out and hits 2 3-pointers early in this one. We talk about the offensive rebounds. He was all over those. He's a guy who's had a sneaky great series. He was 7-12 in Game 2. I thought Game 3 hits the game winner. Game 4 here, I thought he was excellent again. The Raptors are just stacking up little by little, and that's a guy who's been playing well the whole series. All of a sudden, you get Gasol going a little bit. All of a sudden, you get Lowry, Van Fleet, all these guys coming together. Ibaka's been playing great the whole series. Like, everybody, the shooting numbers aren't great. I get what you guys are saying, but this is the playoffs. You're not going to, paint a piece of art with your shooting numbers and have ideal splits and all that stuff. You're just going to make the plays and get it done. And part of shooting a low percentage is the fact that you're grabbing your own misses and putting them back.
Yeah.
The offensive rebounds absolutely killed the Celtics. Second chance points. I know Joe Sway wanted to hit on that, so I'll let him.
Oh yeah, I mean that's it, guys. I mean, I want to let you guys get done with all your crying, but just give the props to the Toronto Raptors, okay?
For sure.
Out rebounded the Celtics plus 20 on the offensive boards. What are you, crazy? What did I say against Philly? You give up those kind of offensive numbers, you're gonna get crushed, and they're lucky they were able to stay into it. But I give the Celtics much credit though. The transition defense made all the difference. That's what kept them in it. And of course,
I agree.
It's Jason Tatum. But yeah, you look at the Siakam game, which I thought was going to be huge for them. I was still thinking in the beginning of the second half, I'm like, they're going to need a little more from Siakam. And then literally right as I'm saying that, he flips the switch. I mean, this is how they win games, whether we're talking about cleaning the offensive glass or whether we're talking about tacking on 17, 18 3-pointers a night. I mean, I'm not surprised here, guys. Like what John asked earlier, what has Toronto done? That's it. That's what it boils down to. You want to say after what happened after Game 2 that Jaylen Brown was 2 in his head? Okay, maybe. Were these guys thinking that they could just go out there in the first quarter and punch the Raptors in the face like they had the last 2 games and everything will be all right? Well, when it didn't happen, they panicked even more. And I just think that's really what it boiled down to.
I mean, look, we've seen them play 5 times so far, okay? The Celtics won 2 in blowouts, won another one not cleanly, but they won another game, and they had another one in their grasp, okay? What are we talking about here? Again, I mean, it's like, it's fine, it's good, it's 2-2, but again, we're just simply talking about what are we seeing that's happening on the floor? We're seeing the Celtics miss a ton of shots and Toronto made their shots. I think there's over-analysis in this game tonight.
No, you're talking about effort, John. How do you just overlook that effort? If the Celtics were able to ever grab that many, if they were ever able to turn that many offensive rebounds to second chance points, we wouldn't be talking about if this is going to be a series or not.
Making shots makes you play better, makes you play with better effort.
Yeah, when you start stacking up the other areas, you can overrule that.
Defensive stops, not second chance opportunities.
They scored 100 points. 100 points. That's very few points. They scored 100.
And that's the most
what are we talking about?
So what, John?
Siakam had a great game. Right? He scored below his season average, and he was 2 of 11 from 3. What are we talking about?
Okay, so
it was enough. They stacked up enough areas in this game.
3-pointers, the Celtics didn't. The rest of it is garbage. Celtics could have won by 15 points if they hit 5 more threes. I mean, this isn't rocket science here. We're going to dissect every little thing. Tatum's body language, Jaylen missing shots. The Celtics have won games where one guy's gone cold. They've won games where they've gotten beat up on the glass. 14
it never
turnovers,
felt like they were going to win this game.
14 turnovers is not a huge number. They just didn't hit shots. It's not that hard. They didn't hit shots.
They didn't hit shots, and they allowed the Raptors.
They shot 44%. They
didn't hit threes. They dominated. You score 40 points they dominated in the paint. It was a weird game. It literally came down to they just couldn't sink an open 3-pointer. I think it's and Toronto did all game long.
Let me point to one area.
The rest of the stuff wouldn't even be something we'd be talking about if the shot differential wasn't that wide. The rest of the stuff doesn't change a game. You can point to it.
I think it does.
Not if the shooting isn't that wide.
Let me point to one situation here that I think swayed this game in a big way that makes all those little possessions that the Celtics start throwing away, as you guys say, with bad shooting, with turnovers, all the more immense. Because in the third quarter, Brad throws Kemba, Ojale, Grant, Wanamaker out there, just this awful rotation, and
Oh
they
my
get blown
God.
off the court. 3 3-pointers in a row. I think they scored a bucket on Kemba's foul, so they got 3 points out of it, but that's a +6. So you're throwing away possessions, you're throwing away 3-point shots, and all of a sudden you have this +6 stretch that you just threw away because your rotations are terrible. And look at the Raptors. They're keeping this tight. Siakam, Lowry, Van Fleet, those guys are on the floor all game, and the Celtics are just screwing around with their rotations still midway through this game, experimenting or what. Those are the things that's a little thing in this game, the rotations, but all those little things that Toronto did added up, including the coaching game.
Again, it adds up because it had to, because it was a close game despite one team shooting 7 of 35 from 3 and the other making 40% of their threes. Again, these are all small details that I don't think matter if the Celtics just hit some shots. You would look at them and be like, oh, you got to button that up and you got to button that up. But this isn't what swung the game is not making shots. That's it. That they didn't make shots all game long. It was a disaster.
Well, we're talking 2 games of that now.
Doc
so
Rivers'
obviously
favorite
something's
quote.
happening.
Doc Rivers' favorite quote. What is it, John? It's a
Don't
make
say
miss
that
league.
make or miss league
It's
thing.
a make miss league, Joe Sway. It's a make.
I don't think
league.
these are make miss
Listen,
games. The last 2, I really don't.
I mean, look at how the Celtics shot, especially
You
in that
guys
third
said it
quarter. You just
yourself.
talked about it.
Toronto's not making them, so it's miss, and they're doing all the little things right to grind out that.
They did the little
game.
I
things.
said
They
what?
did-
This game? I didn't say Toronto missed shots this game. What are you talking about?
They did the little things tonight. Like the second chance points to me was the difference. The offensive rebounds and the second chance points that the Raptors got was to me the difference, and that was effort. That was I don't know. I mean, that hasn't been
again,
an
you're
issue
right.
going forward.
I mean, everybody. I mean, Jesus, look at the start. Look at the numbers across the board. Even Toronto, Van Fleet 6 of 19, but he drills 5 threes. Lowry 5 of 16, but 4 out of 10 from 3. Siakam 10 of 23, 2 of 13 from 3. I mean, it was just what a crazy freaking weird night, on both sides.
Like those 2 guys, those are good examples. Like they've been doing this all series. Like throughout those losses, OG was still putting together good games, especially shooting games. Same thing for Van Fleet. Like it just all came together for the Raptors. Like I understand, like when Jalen is shooting that way, especially when it seemed like he tried to play a little bit of hero ball, it made things really more difficult for the Celtics. But you got to give props to the Raptors.
You can, but again, can you see a world in which the Celtics won a game by 18 points and all of the Toronto Raptors had the same numbers that they had tonight? You know what I mean? It's like you can look at it and say that this easily could have been a game the Celtics won by 20 points, and those were the numbers we're looking at. And instead of saying Lowry had a heroic game, we'd be saying Kyle Lowry's got to shoot better if Toronto's going to stay in this series. And we'd be saying, and so does this guy. That's what I mean is like it's – if Toronto's strength here is in making the Celtics play poorly, which absolutely it can be because they are a good defensive team, and if we think that's why the Celtics were bad tonight, then give all the credit to Toronto. But in a vacuum, the Celtics played a miserable offensive game tonight, and Toronto didn't play a great game either. So again, we could be looking at this box score, dissecting Toronto's and be like, God, this team's never going to win a game when their stars play like this. So I'm not ready to give them credit yet. And in fact, what might be worrisome for the Celtics is, in fact, that it's possible Toronto hasn't played its best game because I think they've sucked through 4 games.
They've gotten better every game.
I think they've sucked. I thought they sucked tonight. I didn't, except for the threes falling. I thought they weren't that good tonight either. Toronto, I believe, has another level. That should be more concerning. Through 4 games, I think Toronto's been terrible.
Well, this is what Raptors fans
and they're 2 and 2.
Saying,
yeah,
is they're saying, you're really not going to see a game in which a Raptors player takes control. It's like that's not how they got to where they are. They're a team. They win.
The Celtics have 4 guys who average 20 points, so we know that. We've seen that.
Right, but the Raptors fans want to keep saying that. You're not going to see a performance like that. But I agree with John in the sense where the Raptors haven't played good basketball. I do think, obviously, that they've played a little bit better. But at the same time, they don't look like an NBA champion team the way they're playing. Neither do the Celtics, but I will say that
what does that do?
There is room for the Raptors to get better. Of course, we would all think that, but the same with the Celtics. Like, we haven't seen the Celtics play a great game. That's why me and John keep saying their great is better than the Raptors.
No, game 1 was great.
Yeah, game 1.
Game 1 was great. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And if the Celtics can play like that, you don't like their chances in this series? So
Well, I thought that was the last blowout. I mean, Toronto
Listen,
stunk in
guys,
that
I
game.
wouldn't be surprised if this is Toronto's best effort, though.
I think Toronto's played the same in all 4 games. And
No
really
way.
Siakam's
Like been missing for 3 games. Van Fleet,
Yeah.
Lowry were awful in
Siakam
game 1 and
game.
2, and they showed up, especially game 3.
Siakam showed up tonight. He had his way with Jaylen Brown, who, again, I mean, I can't say enough about how bad Jaylen Brown was tonight. I don't know what happened. He was a liability, really. And I wanted Shemi in there, which I never say, but I wanted Shemi in there over Jaylen Brown because Shemi wasn't going to kill you, and Shemi wasn't going to keep taking those shots. He would have passed it up to somebody like Tatum or Kemba, who maybe would have had a hotter hand by default.
Let's get to the centers because I think that's what's swinging the series now too. Gasol's been all right. Games 2 and 3 he was better than tonight. Tonight he wasn't great. Yeah, he wasn't great tonight, but Ibaka's been steadily
4.6
awesome.
fouls for Gasol tonight.
Ibaka's been their best player through the 4 games, I think. Ibaka's been their most consistent player.
Most efficient, consistent player.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so all of a sudden, I mean, something weird happened with Tyson this one where they pulled him early.
But he was shaking something off. I don't know.
He dunked. Yeah, he had a putback dunk where he hurt his hand.
But even before that, I missed it. Maybe something happened. Why did he come out at the 2:30 mark of the first quarter? Williams subbed in before the 3-minute mark.
Okay.
Oh no, you're talking about when Gasol came out because
that was it.
When Ibaka came back in, Tyson went back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking in the first quarter.
In the first quarter, yeah, because
it was that quick. Okay, yeah.
And then they switched because Gasol picked up his he was in foul trouble.
Yeah, Gasol's been in foul trouble for a lot of the series, but he fills space. He's good positioning out there. He hasn't had a great series. We're talking about Ibaka being the impact guy, and he blocked Tice bad inside on one play.
Yeah, on that dunk.
Yeah, too much Grant at center in this one, and really something we have to dig deep into is why Robert Williams. He gets that trust in the first quarter. He's been awesome for most of the series. We talk about the mistakes here or there, but come the fourth quarter, when Tice for some reason couldn't play until like about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and they don't trust Rob in that spot. So Grant Williams is playing key center minutes for the late stretches of the third, the early fourth, and that's when Toronto went on their biggest tear of offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities. The Celtics rebounding fell apart. They won the rebounding game in the first 3 games, got killed on the boards tonight.
They did. They did.
Raptors. Here's the thing.
Jimmy.
I mean, should we expect games like tonight more than we should expect, highly offensively executed games? I mean, these are 2 teams that are just like, they're kind of like.
I think Toronto can have.
They kind of fight in the trenches.
I think Toronto can get the better production from the big man night in and night out. I mean, Gasol, we talk about Gasol. He hasn't been great, but that's a guy who, knows how to position himself to be in the right spots to make plays. And he had a key bucket down the stretch of this one, even though he couldn't play a ton. Josue, who's got the better big man here at this point?
Between the 2 teams, I got to give the edge to Toronto.
Yeah, Tice hasn't been great.
John, what were the minutes like? What were the minutes like tonight for the Celtics? Did they play enough? The guys who needed to play, did they play?
Well, they did in the second half. Did Tatum sit in the second half?
He did. He was dealing with some stuff too, like spasms.
Yeah, but the main guys played over 40, which is
they played a ton.
They played a lot.
Tatum played 43, and he sat for a few minutes in the first quarter. Not much. I actually did like that with Stevens. Stevens didn't do the thing he normally does where he pulls Tatum at the 6-minute mark or 5-minute mark or early and then brings him back.
Tatum sat during that awful third quarter stretch.
Yeah, he sat for a little in the third, but he stayed through 9+ minutes of the first quarter, and then he came back out for the second. But you're right. He played 43 minutes, though. The Raptors, they went wire to wire. I mean, these guys were Van Fleet was 45, Lowry 44, Siakam 46. I mean, all fine and good if you can sustain that for all these games. But Celtics had to match that. They went 43 with Tatum, 41 with Walker, 41 with Smart. Brown 37, even though he sucked all game. So I mean,
we haven't talked much about Smart, and
Smart was so bad.
Yeah, he deserves to be ridiculed for this game.
Jimmy, we were talking about it. The Celtics, the 2 players on the team, when they go bad, they go so bad.
There's
Smart disappeared.
Jalen and Marcus, and they just start to just dribble balls off their legs and not look, and then foul people for no reason at all. And Marcus was doing that all game. I mean, he had I think he had 11 offensive fouls. I have no idea how he stayed in the game.
They found a new level of suck. I think they were just feeding off each other's awfulness tonight. It was almost like they were drunk. It's like I don't know what was going on out there, but I mean, Marcus
Jalen
Smart
had
is,
that cloudy thing going on, where he's just like, he just kind of
Jalen
looks
Brown
like
got to the
he looks
point
like
where
he's sleepwalking through the game. It's almost like happening around him, and he just couldn't get into it. It felt like the whole time.
Yeah, you nailed it in the text group. It was rookie Jalen out there. That's what he looked like.
Yeah.
You know what else you nailed too, John? You said this early. Smart was hunting for the ball, being over aggressive.
Yeah.
Trying to get in the lane and post guys up a little too much while other guys are calling for the ball. You know what I found weird about tonight? For all the dysfunction on the offense, I thought Tatum and Kemba played off each other well. But when Smart got on the ball, you saw some tension between him and Kemba.
Absolutely. A couple times they're clapping at each other.
Yeah.
They were not on the same page.
The ball handling didn't flow smoothly between their different ball handlers in this one.
And that might be one of those things where this, again, you have to go back and look at film and see what was it that was happening with Kemba. Was it the zone that was tough for him to get his shots off? Or was it the fact that he wasn't getting the ball in advantageous positions? Because, when he and Marcus were on the floor, they couldn't get going. I'm not sure. I mean, did anybody pick up enough to be able to comment?
For me, ever since game 2, they've taken things up a notch defensively on the pick and roll. I mean, it's hard to notice it because the Celtics have been relatively successful the last couple of games, but I think they took it up another notch in this one. And I think that sort of added a little more pressure to Kemba, but I think Kemba was being a little too shy, in my opinion. I think a lot of the guys wanted to get Jalen going, and I'm not saying that was the reason, it was like a snowball effect, but I just think the Toronto just had their effort, which is on another notch compared to the Celtics.
I agree on the effort.
Here's the thing with Jalen struggling. He's not Ray Allen, where I'm not comfortable with him shooting himself out of a slump. If he's as awful as he was, get him out of there. Get the ball to somebody else. I don't want to see him hoist 10 more 3-pointers.
Yeah,
why not?
Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby's out. I can't hear him.
Bobby, talk. No, we lost
we can't
you.
hear Bobby.
Jump out. Headphones on.
Good, because I'm getting sick of that guy anyways.
Get out of here, Raptors fan. Bobby, jump out and come back on. The Raptors fans are going to be so mad Bobby's gone.
John, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I was just going to say real quick, though, Jimmy, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. I mean, we're talking about these guys, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, that they're the two stars. And we talked about the ascension of Jason Tatum. Well, Jalen Brown's not that far behind. And if you look at his shooting percentages, why not? He should damn near 50%.
Just the way I'm with you.
I was 40% from behind the arc.
That's the way I said it on the thread. Screw it. You live by it, you die by it. Jalen has to get going because the alternative is worse.
By it.
Well, he made 2 threes late.
The alternative, Kemba Walker shoots more, which he barely did tonight. I mean, he needed to be more aggressive. Tatum could have done more.
Yeah.
What's that?
Bobby,
I don't mind that alternative.
Hey, so we do this every playoffs.
Bench, but still can't hear Bobby.
We do this every playoffs, and it cost them in a big way in 2018. We always talk about that. Anyone else got me? You got me, John?
Everyone can hear him now. Bobby has to leave. Jimmy, you leave and come back.
All right, so
go ahead, Bobby. We're going to rotate through.
The commenters are loving me being back, by the way.
They love it. They're like, "Where's our guy?"
So we complain about this every playoff.
Don't read your press clippings, Bobby. You're going to get a big head.
Yeah.
We complain.
Oh, jeez.
We're going to do this all game long. God.
As soon as he came in, too.
We got a terrible technical difficulties.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
we got you. We got poor Bobby's brain. Yeah.
John, here's my question to you. Last game, you said you don't believe in momentum, but do you think that there's a momentum shift here? Because I think that there probably has to be some sort of
mentally. Absolutely, there's a shift. 1,000%. The Raptors are way more confident.
I mean, they were 0.5 seconds from being virtually eliminated from this series, and now it's literally anybody's series. And
sure. Yeah, but I'm very. I mean, look, I'm very much a momentum is like as good as this day's starting pitcher sort of guy. It's the same thing to me. Momentum is as good as whatever you come out as. You create your own momentum. If the Celtics came out and were 5 of 6 from 3 in the first quarter, they'd have momentum. The game gives you momentum. Like if you do things in the game, like you could feel all bummed out, and then you go out there and you play well. That gives you momentum. I don't.
John, these guys are emotional, man. I mean, look at their fans, man. That's exactly how they are. Like they're so emotional, and I just feel like the Toronto Raptors are unique in that way that they could really that game winner. This is the result of that. You know what I mean? Like I think if the win wasn't as emotional, I don't know if you get the same effort. Or maybe I'm wrong, but you get what I'm saying though. They're that kind of team that, and I'm not saying that this means they're gonna win the series. I still got themselves winning the series. I after game 2, because Toronto just seemed like they were putting together the kind of performances where they were just like one or two things needed to go well and they would have won the game. I'm like, I really wouldn't be shocked if this thing goes 2-2 after game 4, and here we are, because that's exactly the kind of team Toronto is. Look, Kawhi Leonard was on that team last year. He did lead them to the championship, but all those guys, they were on that team as well. They've been through, tough playoff games. Kyle Lowry, he's played over 100 playoff games throughout his career. He's tested. It's hard to forget that, because it just seems like it's been the last couple of years he's been reaching as far as he's been throughout the postseason. But no, these guys, they're tough. They're mentally tough. I still have the Celtics winning this series. I still like their chances. But the Toronto Raptors are proving why they had that record and why they're the hottest team in the NBA.
Sure. Yeah.
You guys haven't given enough credit to the strides Toronto's taken. We look at game 1.
Fred
VanVleet 2 for 11. Kyle Lowry's 1 for 5 from 3. All of a sudden, you're talking 4 for 10 from Lowry. In this one, I think VanVleet had another great 3-point shooting percentage, 5 for 11.
That's my point, Bobby. They hit threes today. Otherwise, it's the same crap.
Well, they've been getting better. They've been piling on all these different parts that have been missing early in the game 1 and 2.
Yes, but I mean, they still shot. Their shooting percentage overall was awful. They just knocked down threes this game. Again, I think this.
Well, that's adding another piece to the puzzle. Like, they just keep grouping together all these little things.
Pieces away. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, it's fine if you knock down threes, but if you shoot dreadfully overall, and they had lost this game, we'd be criticizing them instead of complimenting them. I mean, like I said, there is a scenario where these are the same exact stats of a losing team, and Toronto would be ripping these guys apart for underperforming. So I don't understand why we're celebrating them. They won a gritty game where they probably outplayed and out-hustled and out-muscled the Celtics, and they wanted it more, and they knocked down the shots, which was the key. But again, statistically, I'm not looking at anything any of these guys did and said they're ticking up. These are dreadful box scores for a winning team. I mean, it's both sides, really. I mean, neither team put forth a great effort.
Well, the game was knotted at halftime, so that's a big part of this too. And I said that in game 3 as well. The first half wasn't great for Toronto in that game. They executed at a much higher, much more consistent rate when it mattered.
That whole series, man. They're a second half team. Yeah.
So, Sway, look at that Siakam third quarter, because you hit hard on Siakam's improvement. He's become a new player into this game.
Yeah, no question. He was finally starting to take his time a bit, and it seemed like he was like giving up layups. It was the weirdest thing. He was just in his head and passing the ball out in particular situations. But yeah, I mean, this is the Siakam game. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his best game of the series. I still don't think
you don't see it keep ticking up. Like I see this team getting a little better every game.
I think the team's getting better, but if you're relying on Pascal Siakam to do this every single game, I think you're in trouble. You got to be honest with yourself. I mean, these other guys have been doing their thing, and Pascal's been the missing piece. Like, he was the guy they really needed tonight, and that went a long way when you couple that with a bad shooting night from Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker just going through the motions. It seemed like.
Bobby, you mentioned that halftime. We should talk about that awful execution at the end of that second quarter, because the Celtics in the first few games, they were the ones who were scoring at the buzzers and these quarters. Instead, was it another offensive rebound tipped out? I think wasn't it Rob Williams tipped it out to a Raptors player, and Celtics should have been up 5 or 6 points going into half, and instead they let the Raptors hit that 3-pointer at the buzzer there, essentially. And
I knew that was gonna. You knew that was going to be a big impact in the final score, too, because we're the Celtics within 5 late or so all of a sudden you're within a possession instead in the later stretches of this game. But, that was brutal. That was brutal to give up.
That was the kind of effort the Celtics had, I felt like, then. Like, they just didn't close out quarters. The execution was sloppy. They just didn't look like they were the team that got them to this point. So, again, how much of that is the Raptors doing and how much of that is the Celtics just didn't come to play tonight? I'm not sure if they're still reeling from the way Game 3 ended. It certainly didn't feel like they compartmentalized this game from Game 3, because I felt like they were playing a little bit on tilt. I felt like they were out of sorts, and it just seemed like they never got their heads wrapped around like playing Celtics basketball. There was never a stretch, I don't think, if you were watching that game, where you thought, okay, this is working. They're running smoothly right now. No, they were scratching and clawing for every freaking point that they could get. And I'm just not ready to say that the Raptors beat the Celtics I think the Celtics kind of beat themselves in this one. Of course,
No,
the
man, they
Raptors.
won this one. Raptors won this one.
The
I
Raptors
Celtics-
stunk too.
The Celtics never
It
led
was
in this
just a
game,
different-
did they?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did lead. They did.
No,
lead
they
this
did.
game.
They did.
I mean,
Not
there was a
by
buzzer
much.
beating 3 in the second quarter, but I mean, that was 49-46, made it 49-49.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, not a ton.
Right
They
before
were, yeah, I
halftime.
mean, they never had a
The semi-run, that was it.
But listen, defensively, though, again, what the Celtics are doing in their transition defense is so encouraging because they haven't let that up throughout 4 games, and that's what's really going to kill you. That's what's going to make this would have made this night, a 12-point loss for the Celtics or whatever, more than that. And look,
Celtics didn't deserve to win this game.
Series or heading into the postseason, that's the last thing I'm worried about with the Celtics. Like the offense is going to be fine. These guys, man, to John's point, the law of averages, Kemba is not going to just completely fall off in this series, and neither is Jaylen Brown. So
I thought Kemba's had a fantastic series. I like what I see from Tatum. He could be a little smarter on the ball, which is going to help him get where he wants to be the last couple of games, but he's been good. You need more from Smart. You need more from Brown. You need less from the bench. Just tighten this up like Toronto has and let it ride. You got to trust Rob. You're going to live or die by Rob at this point because he's your sixth man pretty much with Hayward
They didn't
out.
trust him tonight.
I think that was a
15
pivotal part of the last 2 games. They go to Cantor like we talked about in Game 3. Horrific decision. Game 4 here, they go to Grant over Rob. What are you doing? And no one asked Stevens about it in postgame, which is not good reporting.
I would have went to Cantor tonight. I mean, if you're saying how much this the Raptors bigs outplayed the Celtics.
No
bigs,
Cantor in this series at all.
I would have went to Cantor for a bit. I would have went to Cantor for a bit tonight. I mean, they needed some quick offense at points. They needed rebounding. God, we know that much at certain points when they were allowing those offensive rebounds. So
yeah, I would have made that sarcastic sub. I mean, let's get our best.
Well, maybe over Grant.
Throw him in. I thought
Bobby couldn't have handled any Cantor minutes.
I know
tonight.
what would have happened. The fast break defense would have went to hell. You would have gotten 2 offensive rebounds and 2 buckets inside, but on the other end, the Raptors would have scored 8 points. That's what happened in Game 3. That's exactly what happened.
Tice was off tonight. I didn't think Tice had a good game by any measure, and he had an awful turnover in the fourth quarter. When he just whipped the ball out of bounds. I don't know what he was thinking, but that was
crazy.
I'm loving it. I have no idea why we're doing this show. It is 99% Raptor. This is the Raptors post-game show.
The Raptors fans
There's 99% Raptors comments in here.
Shout out to the Six. Party up.
I love it.
The Raptors fans are incredible people.
Yeah.
They come out, they rally, they're intense.
Bobby, I know you're going to eventually run.
They're going to get to see their team play, guys.
Bobby's preparing to run for office in Canada.
The bar isn't high up there. Remember?
Bobby's Q rating in Canada is through the roof.
Raptors fans next weekend, they can just relax and think about next season. This is.
Hey, how do we feel about Game 5?
Raptors basketball.
How do I feel Game 5? The fucking Celtics are going to blow their doors off. That's what I feel about Game 5. Bring it, Raptors fans, bring it.
The blowout Monday. Oh,
the blowout's
honestly.
Hey, hold on, real quick. Everyone here, I want the same energy Monday.
Bobby for president, I love it.
We'll see
Bobby
you Monday.
for prime minister.
So one thing,
Bobby for prime minister.
I don't know if I'm going to stick by the Raptors in the series.
Of course you are. Why wouldn't you? You're
all right, but I don't feel
Raptor himself.
The only reason
I can't even keep up. They're going so fast.
I think it's close. So I'm going to give you guys this. The Celtics are the better team. They have more talent. They have more shot making. You're 100% right about
don't
that.
Say that. They're going to turn on you.
Well, no. Hey,
they're going to take you off the ballot.
This is what's going to decide this for the Raptors. All these games are coming down the wire. Celtics late game offense. We've talked about it again and again. Not great. Again tonight, I felt like they botched an opportunity to get within 5, and they make it closer than that by squandering possessions. So the Raptors have been the better team in the clutch in the late stages of these games, and that's what has won this series. And if there's a blowout either way, I'll give you guys credit, but I just don't see it.
I don't see a blowout, and I agree. I just, as I said, I'll stick with Game 1 analysis. Celtics' best game beats the Raptors' best game. Right now, the Celtics aren't playing anywhere near their best.
The Raptors were so bad in Game 1.
The Raptors were bad in Game 1, but again, if you look
at the Celtics were so bad.
If you look at numbers alone,
that's true. That's true.
That the Raptors' best performance and worst performance is not that far off. It really isn't. It really isn't. If you look at the numbers from Game 1, the Game 1 blowout and Game 4 win is not a huge difference numbers wise.
All right.
It's not.
No.
Except that the Celtics hit more shots.
The
Raptors
Raptors' best player in Game 1 was Serge Ibaka. That's how bad their stars were in that one.
Yeah, right. But then they all shot 30% tonight.
Raptors fans hate when I say it, but I think the Celtics beat themselves in Game 3, and I think the Celtics beat themselves in Game 4. The Celtics had Game 3. We all know they had the Game 3 in their grasp, and they blew that. Bobby, you have to admit the Celtics blew that win. The Raptors didn't win that game. The Celtics lost that game. And tonight, I just thought the Celtics played like absolute trash. The Raptors should have been up by 20. The Raptors should have blown the Celtics out tonight like the Celtics blew them out in Game 1. The fact that they didn't tells me that they aren't capable of doing so.
Jimmy, what happened those last few possessions before that 3 to win the game? What did the Celtics finish shooting from the field in that fourth last couple of possessions?
Game 3?
Game 3, yeah. They blew possession after possession. If they hit like yeah. So
and they tried to give away Game 2 as well, but luckily they held on for that game. But their late fourth quarter execution in Games 3 and 4 and Games 2 and 3 were horrible.
This is where we got to give the Raptors some credit. Perfect play to close Game 3. Great buckets down the stretch of this one, too. Lowry over Grant Williams was phenomenal. Pascal had a nice runner in the lane in the fourth quarter. Like, they hit big shots in that fourth quarter to close this. The putbacks, too. Those are timely plays. Ibaka, those cuts. Like, they made plays in the fourth quarter. What did the Celtics do in the fourth quarter? OG slipped and Brown hit a 3. That's how the Celtics got going.
Yeah, the problem was they just
got nothing going nothing going.
I'll tell you what, Ibaka.
That's a great comment.
Ibaka stays killing them, man. Ibaka had 18 off the bench tonight. Celtics bench didn't do. I don't want to say it. They didn't do much tonight. I was going to say something else, but they didn't do much. And
I think it's the worst stuff.
There was a stretch in that third quarter, Bobby. I think you mentioned it earlier, where they went into the bench, and that's when the Raptors kind of. I think they took the lead out to about 11.
I think that and the halftime. 3 moments, the halftime shot. That stretch you mentioned, and those Ibaka cuts and finishes at the end of the game pretty much decided this one.
The
Celtics were, So that bench, I don't know. What do you do, John? You just cut off this bench
I do what you said. With the Celtics, you shorten it and you just play your best and then roll it out there. I mean,
but like we said, they played 40 minutes plus. Everyone but Tice played 40 minutes or more tonight.
Well, Jaylen Brown got pulled a few times.
Jaylen still played 37 minutes. So, I mean, I think I think it's over-analysis. You're going to sit here and look at every little teeny thing. Again, it's not the minutes. It's not the rotations. It's not the bench. You're going to have streaks in and out of a game where, okay, that run didn't work and this unit wasn't great and that unit outplayed this unit. That happens all the time. It doesn't matter if you just hit more shots. And again, your best players have to play better, and that's it. And if they don't,
that's it. You're
opening yourself up to the chance of losing the next game and then the game after that. And again, credit Toronto for making it tougher on them. That's, again, I think it's over-analysis at this point. The game the Celtics blew them out, they shot well,
I mean, this is the first real adversity for this team, like all season, really. I mean, when you think about it, right? I mean, the return from the in the bubble, that regular season there, I mean, there was really not much on the line in that 8-game stretch. I mean, they cruised through the Sixers, and now they've got losses here. And this is where your mental makeup kind of shows.
Even still, Bobby, even still, Jimmy, the Sixers, again, you look at this one and you could easily say could be 3-1 Celtics, could be 3-1 Raptors, theoretically. Even the Sixers series could have been 2-2, 3-1. There was the Celtics have played plenty of games where it's like, that left something to be desired. You had the Tatum dreadful shooting game, the Kemba dreadful shooting game, the high turnover game. There's always something where you can point at and be like, wow, that's why you lost, that's why you won. But, they've managed to win all of these. Now they blow game 3.
Won't roll over.
Yeah, and then here you are. So, yeah.
I think you're going to continue to see the games go like this. The Raptors throw so many defensive looks on them. They're closing out better. They're blowing up the pick and roll, like Joe Slay said. These games are all going to be a grind on both ends. I think that the Toronto Raptors have been more of a timely shot-making team, believe it or not, even though they don't have the better personnel. And it's going to come down to fourth quarter execution. Celtics need to be better in these second halves, and they need to be able to rely on a guy like Brown. He was the only guy who didn't hit 40 minutes, and I don't think Brad liked the way he was playing on either end of the floor, and he didn't like Tice's game tonight, so he pulled him, only played him 25 minutes, and that's where we get a little more of that bench. Like he probably truly felt like Grant was the better option late than Tice, and he probably felt through the middle stretch of this game that Semi, as you guys, I think Joe Sway said earlier in the show, he was more ready to see Semi out there in this one than Brown. So, Brad. Oh, that was Jimmy. Yep. Credit to Jimmy.
No, I just yelled out 7-0 run. Shemi.
Yeah.
Shemi-O.
Bob, do we need to give that fraud? We need to give that fraud Nick Nurse any credit for anything tonight?
Oh, you can't say that to the Toronto fans, Jimmy.
He's an absolute fraud coach of the year. I mean, did he complain his way to coach of the year? I haven't seen this guy coach a ton, but maybe some of the Raptors fans can tell me, does he always just complain nonstop from start to finish?
They complain when they don't get calls and when they get calls, so it is a unique style.
In and out of a timeout, he's complaining. In the corner of the court, he's complaining. Offensive fouls, complaining. This guy is complaining, knows no bounds.
That's another thing that swung tonight too. The Raptors weren't in foul trouble outside of Gasol, so maybe that's the little bit of favor he got with that thing he did after game 2. But luckily, we always hate when we have to do the ref thing on here, and I don't feel like the officiating's been a big part of the series at all.
No, it never is. The team that loses always looks at the refs and say you didn't get the calls, and it just is what it is. I hate doing that. We talked about Kemba's shot attempts and that they were down. Here's Kemba at the podium talking about that. So hold on one second. We had audio, no video there, and I lost somebody.
You lost Jimmy.
Jimmy!
Yeah, wasn't a great segue.
Yeah, I don't know.
What did he say, John? I didn't hear it.
Yeah,
Sorry, we was just talking about he was bummed out about it. We're losing everybody here, so I'm going to get rid of this altogether.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I think we're all here.
We had technical difficulties.
I couldn't hear that Kemba video if you played it.
I did, and now we had technical difficulties as a result of it.
All right, so what did he say?
Nothing. He was just talking about he's got to take more shots, got to be more aggressive. But there was no finger pointing. He wasn't giving credit to Toronto's defense or anything. He just said that it wasn't.
I agree.
Just didn't go his way.
I thought Brown said something similar after this game. They beat themselves. They're following the tune of you guys.
Did.
So
they have to think. I mean,
teams are going to say that. Yeah.
I think you got to think that if you watch the game, the Celtics. Listen, Toronto's a great defensive team, but I don't think that they did anything to make the Celtics as bad as they were tonight. I think the Celtics contributed to their own demise tonight. I'll word it that way.
And so we always have this conversation, like, can you funnel Kemba more shots? Can you get it to the hot hand? Can you get it in Tatum's hand late against the Cavs in Game 7? The Celtics just don't do that. And they didn't talk about it after the game. I don't think they like to dig into much of the X's and O's behind what they're doing here, but they are going to get Semi Ojeleye shots 3 straight from deep as they did in that second quarter if he's the guy who's open. And Marcus Smart, he's getting open looks, so he's taking a ton of 3-pointers right now. They're always just going to go to the end of these rotations. The only thing I'll say is they did get a good few looks for Kemba on the switches on Ibaka at the end of those passing rotations, but they pass the ball around and find the open guy. Like, they are never going to force the issue for one guy, even if he's having a great night, and that's how you end up with 9 shots for Kemba in 40 minutes. He was dishing it out to Brown. He was dishing out to Smart. Finding Tice on the back line. Like, he passed a ton in this one because he had the looks.
But I think he's got to know as a point guard, what does the game need, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of your job is to know what the game's lacking, what the team's needing, and maybe you have to switch things up. Maybe you have to be a little bit more selfish. Maybe you have to drive to the lane more. He was getting to the line. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't, being aggressive in spurts, but I thought there was a point where he needed to kind of go into a little bit of a takeover mode because nobody else was. There wasn't that guy tonight. I thought maybe Tatum would be able to turn it on. He didn't. We already knew it wasn't going to be Brown. We knew it was going to be Smart. Tice doesn't have that capability. So it needed to be a guy like Kemba a la Game 3, and it just wasn't. They didn't have it tonight. They came out flat. Again, I've said it before, but I just think they still had Game 3 emotions in the back of their mind, and instead of using that emotion in a I guess a positive way and wanting to say, hey, going up 3-1 is almost just as good as going up 3-0. So let's just kill these guys today and just take their spirits away from them. But no, I mean now it's completely flipped. If you're the Raptors, you have every reason in the world to get up and just go out there and give it your all.
Yeah, but this is the adversity that they need, though. They haven't seen that in a long
Hopefully.
time. And plus,
They've never had it.
You look at whatever's waiting for them if they go or when they pass to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I honestly think that the Toronto Raptors could be the toughest team in the East that they face in the playoffs. So I always saw this series either going to distance or going to 6. And I think when it comes down to it,
I did.
Now that this series is the best of 3, let's see what these stars are, right? This is what it's all about, right? Kemba Walker, Tatum, Brown. The only team with 3 20-plus point scores. Like, at the end of the day, those guys, I trust those guys to get the Celtics out and squeeze a win over Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry. And Kyle Lowry has been playing one hell of a series. But, again, if this is the best we've seen from Toronto, which it may not be, we could see something better, but the Celtics hung around that whole time.
Yeah.
This was the first game that the Celtics really missed our good friend Gordon Hayward, who has apparently returned to the bubble but is not close to playing.
But that's what we talked about, Jimmy. Again, it's not an excuse making for the series, but when you have those nights where
if he's out there, they smoke him. Yeah.
But when you have those nights where it doesn't work, it's not working. You're not getting a great Brown night, or you're not getting a great Tatum night. Again, having that extra option is always what makes it hard. You've shortened that, so now you need your 3 guys to be awesome. And right now, Kemba 9 shots tonight. Jalen had a terrible game, and then Marcus Smart, who comes in for Hayward, was atrocious too. So again, you can't have 3 of your 4 best players not make an impact or flat out be terrible and have a shot at winning this. And you kept looking at it. We're texting each other like this has to be the Tatum game, and it wasn't. Tatum played fine. He didn't take over the game. Raptors made it hard on him, but I mean, he's fairly efficient. He was sloppy with the ball, but efficient offensively. He just didn't. It wasn't takeover mode. He wasn't just give it to him and get out of his way. So that's what you have. Yeah.
And if you had Hayward's in there for a guy like Smart or Brown, or those guys that were struggling mightily. You're taking them out of the game, and you got a guy like Hayward who's a lot more level, right? And facilitating wise, he's able to get guys like Kemba and Brown going as well. So Kemba and Tatum going.
So in conclusion, Toronto's not that great.
Toronto still sucks.
I'm just kidding. Game 5, we're back for it Monday.
What time is that game?
Final thoughts if you have them.
Real quick, can we talk about the Heat going up 3-0 on the Bucks? I mean,
but now it's such a foregone. Like it's so far in the future.
I think we all saw it coming. Not to this degree, but the Heat were a brutal matchup for them.
Is Giannis done in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Feels like he could be. He's questionable for Game 4. Did you see that?
I told y'all that back in March. That dude's not going to stay in Milwaukee. Have you guys been to Milwaukee? He's not staying in Milwaukee. No.
Good call, Joe Sway. I mean, the Bucks haters were vindicated here.
Good people of Milwaukee.
Their bits and pieces on the role player side were not good.
I've already caught up to them. The Brooklyn Nets are not too far behind. The Celtics, the Raptors. Like, if I'm Giannis, I'm like, what can you guys do here to push?
And we've seen their supporting cast isn't great. Like Eric Bledsoe, we knew what Eric Bledsoe was back in 2018.
South Beach or rocking a Warriors jersey in a couple of years. That's my opinion.
So that's scary. I don't think anyone likes that from a league balance perspective to see Milwaukee fall apart because they were one of the better teams with one star who was driving them. And it looks like that's going to fall apart, and he's going to go somewhere else now. So this isn't good for the league.
It's fine. I mean, honestly, it's fine.
It depends where he goes. What if he goes to Toronto?
Oh, then we're talking.
Wouldn't that be Bobby Street?
Then Toronto will have a good player.
That's what Lowry's praying for. Praise every day for y'all.
There's nothing left to do.
We know Toronto can't keep superstars. One already just left. So
Toronto's got that cap space. Giannis isn't a free agent until next summer.
Not until next year.
I know. They're going to try to get something for him.
next year he'll get traded, and then he'll win a championship in Toronto, and then leave. Like
it's going to be the Anthony Davis trade situation, right, or whatever.
It's brutal to see the way things have fallen apart there.
Toronto can have him for a year. Sure, why not?
Yep.
They're gonna win one every couple of years.
Hey, and this is the Celtics.
That's not a bad model, by the way.
No, it's just
get a top 3 NBA player, keep him for a year, win a championship, give him away, no problem.
Like
anyone would take that.
2 top 3 players in 2 years, or 2 out of 3. Yeah, that's not bad.
Hey, and you bring up Brooklyn coming back. You bring up the East going forward, getting a little tougher. Take advantage of the Celtics. Come on. Like, step up in the series. Get through this. Get to Miami, another team you can beat. There's going to be absolute turmoil in the West. Lakers lost that game 1. There's going to be a grind on that side to get to the finals.
Yeah.
The Celtics can win a championship this year. And I said that. We've all acknowledged that they reached a level of play early in this bubble when they reached 6-0, that you thought they were the best team here. All the odds makers started loving them. Get back to that. Win the series like you can.
The Celtics making it to the finals, heading into Game 3, and now who knows, right?
Yeah, that's the death shot. That happens. That's happened before. The teams in the past, they go off in the beginning of the playoffs, and then
this is the Celtics year. You got to do it this year. You really do.
Right?
You have to.
All right, we're gonna wrap it. It's just basically, even the Toronto fans are tired of friggin' calling us idiots. So they punched themselves out. So
I can't wait to go to war in the comments. I will be at war tomorrow in the comments section.
Okay, good. Go get him, Jimmy. All right, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you to all. It looks like all of Toronto.
Big game 5 coming.
I hope they show up after Game 5. I hope they show
up. This broadcast, it's going to be great. Yeah, we might, depending on what happens, we might have to shut off the chat at Game 5. We're gonna actually, guys. I'm gonna do one thing. The show's either gonna end or something else is gonna happen. So be prepared to say bye, but don't go anywhere yet.
I'm ready for bed, man. This is Jaylen Brown shooting. By the way.
Are we all still here?
Yeah, I think we're live still.
I just wanted to get rid of that box. I hit a button.
I can't hear him. Can you guys?
I can hear him.
Yeah.
I was trying to get rid of the thing. It was killing me.
What thing?
There was a box. There was a box live.
What's he saying?
There was a graphic after I put up the Kemba Walker soundbite. There was something that was sticking on the screen. I was trying to get rid of it.
It was so spread.
Oh yeah.
So I hit a button and got rid of it. Tell Jimmy to leave and come back.
Jimmy, leave and come back. He said.
Are we still live?
Yeah.
Hey.
All I did was I just reset something. We're still up.
All right.
Yeah. All right. We'll let's put a bow on it officially, and then we'll call it a night till Monday.
I just said the whole thing about the finals and all that stuff. I'm worried. For all the Raptors stuff I've said, like, I do want the Celtics to win this. For obvious reasons. Like, we want to keep talking about this team. We want the run continue, all that stuff. And Kyle Lowry, that coaching staff, their hustle, their tenacity, they seem to want this more, especially Lowry. And he has changed the tone of this series. And who on Boston's going to step up and swing that the other way? Through 2 games, no one has. So,
yeah, it might be time for Marcus Smart to kind of out Lowry.
Yeah.
But, it's not happening right now. He's definitely doing those things, whether or not he's having efficient games. He's doing all of those things. And then obviously he had the monster Game 3. So yeah, Jimmy, if Jimmy can't hear, can you hear Jimmy?
I can hear you. I couldn't hear Bobby though.
All right, we're just going to whip it around. Jimmy, have final thoughts for you, and then Josue, and then we're done.
I'm just going to repeat myself. I think the Celtics once again beat themselves in this one. I thought they played like crap. I thought they outsucked the Raptors. The Raptors shot better than the Celtics. John said it 100 times. It's a make-miss league. At the end of the day, the Raptors made more of those outside shots, and I thought that was the difference. I'll give the Raptors credit for winning the game and coming back and evening up this series. I'll do that, but I'm still not willing to say that the Raptors are better than the Celtics. So I'm not going to say that. My last thing I'm going to say is I hope the Celtics play slightly better in Game 5 because John's a voice texter, and I could tell that he was getting increasingly upset as the game went on, as he screams into his phone to text.
I was calmly voice texting that Marcus Smart effing sucks.
Yeah.
There was no rage.
Marquise March is what came through, by the way. And that's it for me. I'll see all the trolls after Game 5.
Oh my God, I loved it. I couldn't even read it. It was like, at the end of like when they take a movie and they put it on TV, but they didn't leave enough time for the credits and they just fire through them.
Yep.
Like that's what the chat was like today. It was just basically Raptors fans just saying the guy in the upper left's an idiot and that you're angry and that Bobby's their
and
president.
that I'm the best.
I think I saw a couple
and then
boomers.
Bobby for Prime Minister, Joe Sway's. Yeah. Thanks. One more. There's another one. Thanks, Bobby.
Yep.
You're welcome, Brandon. He's become my biggest fan on Twitter too. So my profile is raising through the series.
That's great. All right, we'll wrap it up, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.